Hello, my name is Emma Snape, Special Event and Program Manager for the Maltz Museum of Jewish Heritage. On behalf of everyone at the museum, welcome to our virtual program, My Story, Christine Howey with Phyllis Harris. This program is inspired by our newest special exhibition, Notorious RBG, The Life and Times of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, presented locally by PNC Bank. Thank you to PNC and to all of our sponsors and partners, including today's programming partners, the LGBT Center of Cleveland and Literary Cleveland, who helped make it possible to bring a first of its kind exhibition like this one to Cleveland. The exhibition is open now, and we're welcoming visitors to join us safely in person, Wednesday through Sunday from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. We're using best practice protocols such as contactless time ticketing, wearing masks, and maintaining social distancing to ensure a safe visiting experience. Of course, we also welcome you to explore the Notorious RBG from the comfort of home. On the first and third Tuesday of the month, at 2 p.m., we offer a virtual online tour of the exhibit, or bring a group for a private online experience. Whichever way you prefer, you can learn more about how to connect through our website, www.maltzmuseum.org. I'm so glad you've already connected with us today. Thank you for joining us today as part of the My Story series, a monthly conversation between exceptional local Cleveland women who have paved their own paths, simultaneously paving the way for others, breaking down barriers to live and work with purpose. This will be followed by an audience Q&A. Today's program, Phyllis Harris of the LGBT Center of Cleveland will be interviewing Christine Howey about her life and career in honor of today, International Transgender Day of Visibility. And so before we begin, I also have a quick note for you regarding language. Christine will be sharing some readings from her work with us today, and some of the excerpts may contain mature language that is best suited to an adult audience. Now, with all that housekeeping taken care of, I'm going to introduce our two speakers today. So first of all, Christine Howey is a performance poet, a theater critic, and a transgender activist. She was an actor and director at the Obama Theater in Cleveland Heights from 1968 to 1982, where, as a man, she played the title role in An Evening with Richard Nixon, in addition to many other roles. She transitioned as Christine in 1990 at age 45, and since then she has been performing her one-person stage show about her transition, Exact Change, at Cleveland Public Theater, Playhouse Square, the New York International Fringe Festival, and other venues around Ohio and the country. The film version of her play was an official selection of the Chagrin Documentary Film Festival in 2018, and up until last September, she was the executive director of Literary Cleveland, a nonprofit organization serving writers and readers. And then to introduce Phyllis Harris, let me tell you that with over 25 years of exceptional experience with nonprofits, Phyllis Harris has developed a keen passion for nonprofit management, social justice, and anti-oppression work to help ensure a better quality of life for marginalized people. She has served in program development, fundraising, and upper-level management positions where her leadership skills and passion have led organizations and projects to success. She's considered to be a thought leader on issues related to cultural change, and she is skilled in the facilitation of anti-oppression, anti-Black racism, and LGBTQ inclusion workshops. In her role as a nonprofit leader, Ms. Harris is community-focused, believes in coalition building, and she is known for addressing gaps and problems via collaboration, a positive attitude, and an unwavering commitment towards social justice. Playing a vital role as an advocate in Cleveland's LGBTQ+ community for many years, and now in leadership at the LGBT Community Center of Greater Cleveland, the organization has experienced transformational growth under her direction since the year 2012. Ms. Harris's experience in organizational leadership spring from her passion for the nonprofit industry and her love of civic engagement. She's had the honor to serve with several nonprofit organizations. And in addition to her work at the center, she is the co-founder of consulting practice, Sage and Maven, where she supports organizations around issues relevant to strategic direction, organizational culture, equity, and inclusion. Ms. Harris has extensive experience serving on local and national nonprofit boards. She was recently appointed to Cuyahoga County's Community Advisory Board for Equity. She holds a master's degree in nonprofit management from Case Western Reserve University and a Bachelor of Arts from Baldwin-Wallace College. She's a graduate of the 2019 class of Leadership Cleveland and was recognized as one of 2020's most interesting people by Cleveland Magazine. And now, without any further ado, please Please join me in welcoming them both to the virtual stage. Thank you.
Thank you. Christine, so good to be here.
It's great to be with you, Phyllis.
Yes.
So I guess I'm going to start. I'm going to read 3 pieces. One of the pieces is from the play Exact Change. The other 2 are poems that I've written in the last few years. I was very active in slam poetry world, and those poems are from that place. The first one I want to read is a poem. Actually, my play was 80 minutes long, covering my whole life from birth all the way through my transition, and then beyond that a little bit. But I was curious after that was all done. Once I was writing slam poetry, I was curious if I could boil my whole life down to 3 minutes, which is the rule for slam poetry. And so this poem is that story shrunk down to 3 minutes.
Right on.
The title is, I was a male impersonator for 40 years. No, not like a drag king, not that kind of thing. No highness for the lowness I was feeling. See, I was born in 1945, 4 months after FDR died, 2 days after the end of World War II, 20 years before the invention of Doritos. We're talking a long, long, long time ago. So everybody's happy back then, and so am I. I mean, for the first 5 years, I'm down with it all. Drooling, learning how to walk and talk and crap into a porcelain chair. Hey, I got this. Then boom, 5 years old. I'm kindergarten. Boys here, girls there. Whoa. Boys? Girls? When did we get divided into teams? And why wasn't I consulted about this? And I'm on what team? The boy team? Oh. Hold on. Hang on, we got to talk about this. Oh, but nobody's talking. They just shove me into a stiff pair of blue jeans, hand me a Roy Rogers rifle and say, be a man, little man. Be a man, be a man. How can I be a man when I don't even know how to be a person yet? Hey, I just got done figuring out peekaboo. And now I got to be a little man because of this thing down here? Really? This is way less than 1% of my total body weight. And it's going to determine how I live the rest of my life? Seriously? Seriously? Oh yeah, they're serious. I can see that. And I know if I tell them I'm really a girl, it's going to go bad for me. See, this is the early 1950s, and they weren't fucking around with gender and shit. There was no, oh, you have a gender identity problem. Well, please tell us. It was, you be who we tell you you are, or you're in deep trouble, little man. This is going on your permanent record. And if you don't come around, we're going to hook up your skull to some jumper cables and run a few thousand ready kilowatts from your frontal lobe down to your brainstem until we fry us up a nice, calm, obedient boy. Hey, so I shut the fuck up and hide inside my plaid short sleeve shirts as I click off the mile markers. Boom, 10 years old. I'm a boy who doesn't talk much because I'm afraid of making a mistake and letting people see who I really am. Boom, 20 years old. I'm a young man drinking hard and protesting the Vietnam War. Boom, 30 years old. I'm a married man with a child. Boom, 40 years old. I'm an advertising executive man with a red sports car and I'm suicidal. Because the woman inside me is dying. Feel her dying. She's been waiting for 40 years and now she's dying. And my male impersonator act is dying. And I'm dying way before my time. And then boom, I'm 45 in 1990. And I say, that's all. I won't die in a rented room wearing borrowed clothes. I won't be what you want and I won't bleed for what you need. You cannot supersede me or impede me because I am no longer weak-kneed, so you can speed read the end of this screed. I am Christine. I'm Christine. I am Christine.
I think I get to be the audience.
Thank you. The second piece is from the play, and it's about a very important moment in my life. as you're probably aware, when a trans person goes out in public and they can be finally accepted and are not causing people to stop and stare, it's called passing. And so this title of this piece is My Passing, 1988. So many wrong decisions. The too short, acid-washed denim skirt, the metallic blouse, the too high heels, the unfortunate overly curly wig, but it all feels so right all the way into the May Company until a snarl of teenagers spots me and comes to a halt, their arcing electric gum-snapping conversation frozen in midair. Hey, you a man or a woman? Then the giggling. In that split second, I know I'm fucked, totally fucked. I spin back towards the entrance as their cleaning laughter rips. Hey, faggot, where you going? Now I'm running through the parking lot, carrying my shoes, startling a woman taking her toddler out of a car seat. And once I'm in my car, I burn out of the parking lot. Wipers flip to high until I realize the water's in my eyes, not on the windshield. It is 1 year to the day before I go out again. This time, the wig is professionally styled, casual, nothing showy, tan top, black slacks, black flats. This time, it's a smaller store, a shoe store in a strip mall. And after building up my courage in the car for 2 hours, I walk in, past a woman seated at a table who's talking to some people, but I'm inside, I'm okay. And turning to look at the display, out of the corner of my eye, I see the woman pointing at me, and a young guy, another employee, nods at her and walks toward me. Oh God, here it comes again. I whirl to look for the exit, but he's blocking the way, so I speed walk down an aisle. He takes the other aisle and meets me at the end. I open my mouth to apologize, to explain, but he just says, sorry, ma'am. You walked by so fast you didn't get your gift flower. Here. It's part of our anniversary celebration. He hands me an artificial peach-colored rose on a green wire stem. Have a nice day, ma'am. Weak-kneed, I collapse onto a stool and reach out to grab a shoe just to have something to look at. And a woman across from me gives me an odd look, wondering how the plain black loafer in my hand inspired the remarkable expression on my face. The third and last piece I will read is really more of a poem about me and my daughter. The lifespan of a hug. It was the day when she crawled up on my lap at 3 years old, threw her little arm around my neck like a drinking buddy, and waited for a hug from me, her dad. That was when my arms lay on the arms of the chair, inert, dead. I could not hug my daughter because I knew that inside I was different. I couldn't play pretend anymore, have her think I was a man when in reality I knew that was a lie. So I didn't hug her. And eventually she crawled down from my lap, toddling off, hurt and confused. She learned not to ask for hugs or to wait for them because I was too far hidden away, too bruised. The pain was racking because my secret was hijacking my love for her, ransacking our relationship that was lacking only one thing, the truth. She pulled away, put her feelings in a box, and she decided life without a dad wasn't all that bad. Just turn up the music, forget the shocks, forget about the father you might have had. And it only got worse until after many years, it was exactly 14, when she graduated from high school and I came out as Christine. And then one day I asked her for a hug. And she gave one, I swear, a short, stiff-armed hug, more like a shrug, but still, it was there. And over time, we patched the little boat that held us, smoothed out the rawness, fixed the leaks, made sure it was honest. Now she's 48 and I'm 75, and we hug all the time. We even do a hugging dance, a slow rocking back and forth like a trance. La-dee, la-da, while we stand and embrace, humming soft and low. La-da, la-dee. As parent and child, let the healing flow. As father and daughter, douse the fires of our history and let something better flourish and grow. She still calls me dad. It's an honor, I confess, because now we don't need to scurry and hide. Here comes my father, my daughter says with pride. She's the one in the purple dress. I celebrate all men who are good dads through and through, those like my father who are male, tried and true. But I found that sometimes it's not so easy being human, that for me to be a better dad, I had to be a woman.
Thank you so much. All so very powerful and just gives, I've heard them before and every time is a treat and all powerful and all hit differently each time that I hear them in terms of the response, both in questions I might have, the continued curiosity about you and your life, and then also, what I know about, um, people who break free in terms of being authentic. For me, it goes as far as, my Blackness, my womanness, my lesbianism, and how to present that authentically and still be able to pass, right, or blend in the world and be respected and for people to see my humanity. So what happens for me, even though I have all those experience each of the times that I've seen it, is that I'm reminded of our humanity and the journeys that each individual we might encounter could be going through, has gone through, will be going through. And sometimes we get to connect with those people for a long time. Sometimes it's seconds, and sometimes it's intermittently throughout their life. One of the things that I was excited to say, and so I just wanted to say that. But one of the things that I was also excited to say, to share with you is like how I first met you, or I didn't meet you actually, how I first encountered you, I guess I want to say. And I had just had a son, and he is 23 now. So he must have been maybe 2 or 3 back then. So it's more about 20 years ago. And I had found a church for myself because I wanted to. My mom, we grew up Baptist, but she would always say, you can choose to come to church. It's always a choice for us. And I didn't really attend much, but somehow after I had this child, I wanted to have a church family, and I found the UU church, and I found you at the UU church. And I remember going to First Church. That's where I started my UU life. And I remember seeing you there, and I remember your posture. And I remember thinking, that's a woman just like my friend Ever, except for Ever is a boy and she's a girl. I have a best friend who's also trans. So I had that experience, but what I was seeing while I saw you in the pews at the UU Church, First Church, is what it is. It's just such grace, and I saw a woman there, with pride and grace, and I sat there in my full body, like I am, fully me, feeling that energy and doing the same. And feeling comfortable because there was one more person who was sort of like me, not completely. We were women. I'm a lesbian. She's trans. I remember that. But here are these 2 women in this space at the UU Church. We didn't talk. We didn't connect. I just watched you. I'm a Libra. I do that. And then the next time I met you or we met you was through my work at the center. And I remember how excited the young people were to be able to see your play, Exact Change, at Cleveland Public Theater. And I remember again having the story of, this is who I encountered at the UU church. And now, like, I have this job where this is happening. And the response, we had a small group, but the impact on those youth who attended with us for your show was huge, 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 huge. And so there's change that you are making in terms of people who see you on those days, and a day like today, Trans Day of Visibility. Um, and there's change that happens that you don't know about for people like me and others, I'm sure. Um, you know, at that point, who understand that we are sisters. And so really, really wanted to just, share that as we open and have this discussion. Like I said earlier, it's going to be two women having a discussion.
Sounds good.
All right.
Oh, it's great to hear that story.
Yeah. Yeah. So those pieces, tell me why you chose those, and how does it feel to share them? What else do you want us to know about them?
Well, all the pieces, the play, which is a film version now, but is made up of 40 poems.
Mhm.
Each of those poems have a special meaning. I would say that the one about my daughter is very meaningful to me, just because I needed her to know who I was, really. That was one of the driving forces behind my transition. And even if, I wasn't sure if she would accept me, I didn't know what the future would hold, but I knew that she had to have the information about who I was.
Mhm.
And as it turned out, we're the best of friends, and we are so very close now. But
Very cool.
that was important.
Mhm.
And as I mentioned, the other one, the one that said my whole my sort of whole history from birth, is that I think it's interesting. People always ask me, what does it feel like to be transgender? People in the gay community, people in the straight community ask the same thing. So the whole idea of gender identity is and of a switch of gender identity is pretty foreign territory for most people still, even
So,
though there's been a lot of acceptance and a lot more publication of people's lives and so forth. But back when I transitioned, in 1990, there wasn't even a word transgender. It's
mhm.
transsexual. And most people at that time, I started telling people I was transsexual, and they thought I was saying bisexual. Nobody knew what it
Yeah.
was about,
Mhm.
So it was just informational. I thought that it's interesting to have this in perspective, historical perspective. And then the poem about passing is that was it, because I was clocked or read completely when I went into the make company. When I thought I looked pretty good in my very 80s outfit,
I
shiny
like that.
metallic blouse, mini skirt, and I was ready to go.
Yeah.
And that didn't go well. And so I hid for a year and tried to get myself put together, and then went out again to that small shoe store. And if I had been clocked again, if I had been read, if I couldn't have passed then, I'm not sure what would have happened, because that was as good as I could do.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
really needed to live in the world. I wanted to go back. I had a career. I wanted to
Yeah.
go back to my career and so forth. And but fortunately, that went well. So that's again very important to me.
Yeah. Yeah. In terms of the poem, with your daughter, and then what you talk about in terms of being good friends with her now. And I really love how it shows how parents and children can work it out. If
Mhm.
they, it might not be just like, okay, but, this is, this is a relationship that you have with someone, an important one. and it's worth the investment of time and energy to work it out. I talk about, absolutely, we are always coming out in some kind of way. And, there is the coming out of the individual, right, around our living our lives authentically as who we are. But then there's also the coming out on the journey for our loved ones. And I'm not sure how much grace to give, honestly, for people around their journey, around stuff that they really have no control over. But I do think that those relationships are important. And so I like the happy endings. I see a lot of not happy endings of young people who are who they are, and their parents are not equipped, or do not have the capacity, dig in the wrong ways, reject, deny, abuse, and it doesn't go well. So it's important to be demonstrative of when it does go well, and how that might happen. Um, and I really like the way that you were able to use your art to do that,
Mhm.
to be able to tap into that, to expand on who you are.
Yeah, well, that's what I wanted to do back, I started working on this, on my play about 8 years ago now. And I had been living, successfully as Christine for a while, working and so forth. And that was going well, but I was very upset about, well, upset is not a strong enough word. I was very distressed about when we were reading constantly about transgender people being attacked, being killed, transgender people committing suicide. Um, Actually, transgender people attempt suicide, I think, at a rate 9 times higher than the straight population. And so all these issues were tough. And I thought, well, I'm able to, I have whatever talents I have in theater and writing, and I thought I'd put them together and see what I could do, what would happen, And I've been very gratified. A lot of people, I've met a lot of people who have encountered my film
Yes.
and or my play,
Yeah.
and have been, very positive about what they've come away with. So that feels good.
Yeah, absolutely needed. You and more role models, people just living. What do you think it's going to take, for more, for there to be more human beings who happen to be trans to be healthy and whole and cared for in this society? What would it take?
Wow. If I knew, I would tell everybody. I think it's really being, acceptance is
Mhm.
a low bar, but it's a start.
Mhm.
And that's where I think it has to begin. It's and it, I think people have to realize too that even though that transgender identities are now very much more in the news, we're very used to it. It's much more prevalent. It's still a very difficult process to go through,
Mhm.
uh, as coming out as a gay is also. And you need to be able to help people through that process.
Mhm.
And I know that it's not always just being accepting. It's not always just being uh, staying friends. I mean, it's
Mhm.
deeper than that,
Yeah.
because nothing is deeper than your identity, you
Mhm.
know. And that's what you go out into the world with every day. And
Mhm.
if you're going out in the wrong, you know, appearance, that's very makes it life very difficult.
Yeah.
And that's so, and you have to live with that every second of every moment, you're awake and interacting with other people. So it's helping people through that. And I think it will take people being people, non-trans people, uh, being very sensitive to that situation and asking a lot of questions. My short answer to people how they should help is not to make statements, is just to ask questions.
Questions.
What can I do to help? Or whatever the questions are, or the issues are, if they're formed as a question, that helps the person, the trans person to express what works for them. Because every trans person is different. Some people want to, if they come out as trans, they want to run right out with all their friends and buy new clothes. Other trans people don't want to do exactly the opposite. They don't want anyone to pay any attention. They just want to do whatever they're doing quietly and do it at their own pace, and not be forced or pressured into doing something else. And the only way you find that out is by asking questions and finding out who that individual is and what the individual needs are there.
Yeah. The two things that came up for me as you were speaking is, people who are trans also have intersectional identities. They are trans in this and trans in that and trans in this, and this means something. And then the other thing is to stay curious about another human being. Staying curious will keep you open to asking questions and to finding out more. And so when you learn about and you care about that other human being, somebody who might be different than you, then you're gonna be supporting them. And then finally, just the idea of, there is, everyone had, there's steps, like we talk about, you can talk about steps to coming out, like, am I am, oh, and there's others like me. Wow, I am. And now it's just one part, yes, and it's one part of me like that, I just went through that, sort of like 5-step folk thing that people talk about. And that journey is individual and unique, even though there is a framework around it. So to support someone who is trans through that process, around being able to, accept oneself and then get acceptance from others, like in the shoe store. You know what I mean? Like that, okay, here's your, and then the continued steps around that, need support. And then after that, because that's just one part of the journey, right? So you've accepted yourself, there is more acceptance. There are people who understand. There are people who make space. There are people who are willing to learn. There are people who are going to make some mistakes, and we're not ready yet. We're still not, as much as trans people have been around, forever. And even when we're in situations like myself, where I work at the LGBTQ community center, and some of my colleagues are trans and non-binary, I still have to do the work around being grounded and remembering inclusion of trans identities. And it gets hard to admit that it does take, investing, engaging, staying curious, being willing to make mistakes, and move through those mistakes and not get stuck in them, and be clear, about the support that each of us might have for someone who's trans, especially me in the situations I'm in, but like in general. So I think I'm saying that all to say is, like it is a journey, and it can be a unique journey. And we're used to this. We're unique human beings. We all belong in different groups, and, identity politics is what it is, and, culture. But we still know that we're individuals, and within those groups, we have our own identities and different needs around support. But the basics are, I would say, to allow people to be who they are and support them in being that, so they can be healthy and whole. We would save a lot of LGBTQ people, and certainly trans people, from some of the mental health distress that we experience around to your point, around suicide rates, if we would make space for helping them to understand who they are against all these cis people in the world. You know, how special must you be
Mhm.
if you're something different? You know, why can't we look at it like that, right? You know, so anyway, I'll
Yeah,
stop
well,
talking.
I compare it to going to an aquarium, and you look in the aquarium, and some of them, the fish are just gorgeous,
Mhm.
beautiful, and some are just really strange. You know, they got things coming out this way and
Right.
this way, and man,
Yeah.
but you don't walk up there and go, "Well, I hate that. I hate you,
Yeah.
fish." You know, uh, your point about curiosity is great. You know, you look at it and go, "Well, what's going on here? What's going on with this
Yeah.
fish or this person?" And it's
And you know the difference. We learn how to ask those to curb that curiosity with some temper, like with tempered, we learn how to do that too, and we don't want the curiosity to be more like a, I need to know everything about you, you need to teach me right now. So
yeah, right.
there's some nuance to that as well.
Yeah, well, I think that, and I think trans people also have a job to do. I mean, as they come out, they have to. I've always told trans people, if you're coming out, cut everyone else in your world some slack too,
Mm-hmm.
because it's going to take them time.
Mm-hmm.
What's different, in one respect about trans people is that your whole appearance, generally speaking, if you're not somewhere else on the continuum, but say uh, going from male to female, man to woman, or woman to man, you're changing a lot about your appearance, about the way you present in society, and you have to give people a little bit of time, a little bit of adjustment room to get used to that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you can't expect immediate, you know, feedback.
Embracing and understanding of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's true. Well, this came up recently in a conversation. Do you think that, the differences in terms of experience of, like, say, someone who is a boomer and someone who is a millennial or Gen Z around acceptance, around inclusion, around the amount of, or the difference in also the amount of time it takes to catch on to um, you know the jargon, the including and changing the thinking around the binary. Do you think it's harder because, I mean, again, trans people were around, but they weren't out as much as they are now. So what are the major differences? Like,
Well, I
what
think it's
involved, and eventually it's like going to be like, okay, that person's trans.
yeah. Well, when I came out, I mean, in 1990, 31 years ago, um, there was very little awareness of it, and it was quite a you know quite a jarring thing for people to even consider.
Mm-hmm.
That has changed, obviously, a lot. There's a lot more representation of trans people in the culture, in entertainment, um, and so forth, and that helps a lot. But it's not the entire solution. Let me give you one example, a local example. There was a person at Oberlin College, Sam. Uh, his when he was a male, he was Sam, and then he decided to transition in his first year at Oberlin, and he transitioned as Sam, but
Mm-hmm.
as a young woman. And he was very well accepted. It was Oberlin. It was a very liberal college. He was very well accepted by all his friends, his family, um, and his parents were professionals. They understood. They accepted him with love. And his entire family really did. Even the grandparents. He was surrounded with love and understanding, and still, in his second year, tragically, he committed suicide.
Mm-hmm.
And I only say that because to emphasize the fact that there are things going on in the person's life that you're not aware of inside their head,
Yes.
trying themselves to adjust and try to find their own path. And that's why I say that it's so good to ask questions, to be there, to be supportive, but not to, you know, put any pressure in one direction or another. Let the person's identity evolve as it will, and be there for support when possible. But it's always, even though it's so much better now, and there's so much more support materials.
Still not.
Like one of the scenes in my play, when I was younger, when I was a teenager, I tried to find information about whatever I was feeling, and there was nothing. And if there was anything, it was under lock and key at the library. You had to be a professional, you had to be a doctor or a psychiatrist or a social worker, somebody to be able to access any material on gender dysphoria, as it was called, gender identity, and so forth. So we've come a long way from that, but still it's a delicate situation, and it's can be difficult. So to keep that in mind.
Yeah. You have lots of questions, and so I'm going to get to some of the questions, but I also want to get to the fact that now there are programs locally. Colors Plus is an organization that focus on support for LGBTQ youth, but certainly trans youth. They also have clinicians there. Kristen and Lisa are the founders of Colors Plus, with a specific interest in supporting families with trans children and trans youth, and trans youth themselves, the counseling, social time, and other supports. And so the center, our QU programming as well for young people who identify as queer. Please check us out at lgbtcleveland.org and go under the QU tab. So there are more programs. The AIDS Task Force of Greater Cleveland, the Beyond Identities Community Center, and even while saying and sharing that information, that good news that there are supports out there, there's still not enough. Right. Over the last few years here in Cleveland, Lorain County, there's an LGBT task force. In Lake County, there's an LGBT community center. And Geneva, just recently, an LGBT organization, coming together to deliver services, and still, it's not enough.
If I may, too, there's the parents of Sam started a foundation, so I thought I'd mention it. It's called the Sam and Devorah. It's DEVORAH Foundation for Transgender Youth.
Yeah,
they do some wonderful work there. So if people are looking for, that's another resource.
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, so I want to move on to some of the questions here. They're a combination of questions for people around supports for trans folks, but also questions about what's next for you, your plays and things like that. So let me see if I can do this well. One question asked if you could share a perspective or two on what was going on inside during several major chapters of your life, such as high school, college, ad agency, arts world, etc. Some of that has been explained through your poems, but like if you could hit on those.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's that's what a lot of my play is about. But the key, what you've heard about one or two of the key moments in my life already. One of the interesting things happened to me when I transitioned in 1990, and I wasn't sure if I was working freelance, but I was sort of full-time freelance at an agency locally. I was a creative director, and so I transitioned. I gave them notice, and I actually had a party leading up to it, invited people to my coming out party, so to speak. But the first day I walked into the ad agency, I was a copywriter, creative director. There was a meeting. We had a meeting on a client, and so I was running. There was about 8 people in the small conference room, and a creative department. I was looking at, going through the objectives and the strategy and so forth. And all of a sudden, one of the young guys who was in the room interrupted me and started talking. That was the first time I'd ever been interrupted.
Mm.
As soon as I was a woman,
Mm.
it seemed okay to interrupt me.
Mhm.
And I was surprised at it. I mean, I stopped and then I kept going. I kept talking, and then another guy interrupted me,
Mhm.
and I stopped it right there. I said, "Well, this is not going to happen anymore." But this is what women go through.
Mhm.
Just because you're a woman, it seems, most guys, and they weren't trying to be mean. They
Yeah.
weren't trying to show
Yes.
me up or do anything like that. It was just second nature, I
Mhm.
think, to them. That if a woman is talking and if something occurs to you to say as a man, that must take precedence over anything the woman must be saying. So you just start saying it.
Yeah.
And this is no revelation to women,
Yes.
and hopefully not a revelation to men. But that was a surprising moment.
Yeah, it's really learning, what it's like to be a woman and moving in this world as in this society as one. And we can talk all day about that, but let's get to some more of these questions.
Well,
There's a
do you want
question.
another one from my school
Oh,
days?
yeah, go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, well, you mentioned school, and the other
Yeah.
one was really a significant one because when I was in kindergarten, it was part of that whole thing. But what happened was I was in kindergarten, and we were divided in boys and girls, and I walked over to the girls' line.
Uh-huh.
That's where I felt comfortable. And the teacher immediately, a woman teacher, came over and grabbed my upper arm. I
Mhm.
still can feel it.
Mhm.
It was such a vice grip. And she
Mhm.
walked me back over to the boy line.
Mhm.
And she thought I was being a smart aleck.
Mhm.
I wasn't being a smart aleck.
Yeah.
I was just going where it seemed like if
Safer.
we're going to divide people up like that, then
Yes.
that's where I belong.
Mhm.
But I still carry
Yeah.
those impressions that her fingers made on my arm
Yeah.
for till now.
Yeah.
So that's when I started hiding.
Yeah.
That began 40 years of hiding before I
Yeah. It
finally
seems
came out.
like what part of what's going on at those points, is survival. How do I know this about me and survive in these environments that I'm in?
Exactly.
Yeah, thank you for that. A question for both of the panelists. What they really want to know is how difficult was it, or if it was difficult, to find and establish physical, emotional relationships when you accepted the real you.
Uh, it's in a way it's a challenge, in a way it's not. I mean, I'm not going to go into great detail about my
Yeah, we're
physical
not.
relationships, but I would say just in a general sense that it's a lot easier to relate to other people once you are who you're supposed to be.
Yes.
Once you have your identity in place, then it's a lot easier to see who you're attracted
Mhm.
to pursue that attraction,
Mhm.
to in the appropriate way and to the degree you want to. But that you know, but of course, again, it's a challenge because you have to sort of learn these things. I didn't go through a girlhood.
Right.
I didn't go through the physical changes that a girl and a woman goes through. I didn't experience a lot of things. So um, there's information,
Mhm.
missing in
Sure. Mhm.
my soul, in my head, and so forth. So, and you have to sort of try to work around that.
Yeah.
But but it but it's so much easier. I mean, people had when I first came out, people said, "My gosh, you seem so relaxed now," and
Mm.
I wasn't even aware of it.
Yeah.
Finally, all that tension just drained out of my body because I didn't have to. I was constantly, as a man, I was constantly checking myself. Am I
Yeah.
standing the right way? Did I gesture the right way? Did I not gesture too in a
Yeah. Like
feminine way? Uh,
myself. Like it.
yeah, you're right. Yeah, and I had to keep controlling these things and monitoring and checking and so
Mhm.
forth. And it's exhausting. It's just exhausting to go through life like that. And so, from that standpoint, it was easier, a lot easier.
Yeah. There's a couple questions that people are curious, and we have dropped in the chat. There are resources for folks who uh, who consider suicide and things like that. But for yourself, was it a major part of any part of your life? And, did you seek help around it? Is it talked about? What would you want to share, if anything, about suicide and the role that it's played in your life, or what you know about it? Anywhere you want to go with it.
Yeah, it was certainly a thought. I mean, I had really down times. And by the time I decided, to transition, it really wasn't a choice. It was either that or stop existing. I mean, I'd been slowly trying to do something in that regard, just from, excessive drinking and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I never got to the point of actually attempting suicide per se, but that was going to be next on the agenda if that visit to that shoe store hadn't gone as it did, and then I was faced with not being who I am. I'm sorry, because that was impossible for me to imagine.
Yes.
I had taken it as far as I could, 45 years, and that was as far as I could go. So if I hadn't had this option, then I don't, that would have been the next step for me.
Look at you now on this beautiful day of trans visibility, having this amazing conversation with all these people who are interested in knowing who you are and what your life has been like. And they're also interested in a couple more things. I hope I can get these in. One is around what's going to happen going forward. Let's see. I think the question was, and I lost my scrolling in. Let's see. Any plans for your play to be on the stage in the future?
No, I'm sort of past the live performance part. It has become now that I'm 75, going on 76. I'm not like some people, like Dorothy Silver, this wonderful good friend of mine and a local actor who is splendid on stage, and she's in her 90s. I have evidently hit the wall in terms of acting. So that's why one of the reasons I did the film.
Okay.
That person on the screen will remember the words.
There you go. Very good.
So, but currently I'm retired now fully, so I'm spending a lot of time writing. I have a major writing project I'm involved with, and that's going to take me, I don't know, 2 years or longer maybe to actually complete it. So that's occupying my time right now.
Very good. So something to look forward to. What about, someone just asked how can we see the film?
Okay, the film. Yes, you can email me. I can send it. I'm actually having more copies made as we speak. But you can email me. I'll give you my email address. It's rchowey@gmail.com. rchowey@gmail.com. Just send me a note saying you're interested and in the film. I also have 4 poetry books, one of which is about it's entirely about the transition. It's a trans-themed book of poetry.
Very cool.
And the other 3 books are not trans-themed, but various topics. So if anyone has interest in those too, you could contact me at that same address, and I can share with you the price and
go from there.
Go from there. Yeah.
Okay. Do you know how much time we have? Or is this a 1 hour?
I don't know.
I don't even know. Neither one of us checked that. We were just happy to get together.
If you want to pick a last few couple of questions, Phyllis, that really speak to you, it's okay if we go past 5 o'clock a little bit, but we were probably going to want to start wrapping up around then. So thank you.
Okay. All right. Where did my questions go? I lost them on my page. Let's see. There they are. All right. I think we hit most of the questions. There are some questions around children. There's a question. You've heard, what are you hearing, from the young people, especially, have you heard that many children today who are transgender don't actually feel the need to change their appearance?
Oh yeah, there's a lot more options now. I mean, there's you know, gender nonconforming and so forth. It, can take any shape
Mhm.
pretty much, and I think that's great. Uh,
Yes.
I wrote a song. Years ago, I with a friend of mine, I wrote a transgender musical review called The Sissy Show,
Hmm.
and one of those songs was "Having Fun on the Continuum."
Ah.
And that's what people are doing now. They're having fun on the continuum.
Mhm.
Sometimes different each day, sometimes different within the day.
Yeah.
I'm here, then I'm here, then I'm
Right.
this, then I'm that. I
Yeah.
think that's great. I think
Yeah.
that's wonderful. So uh, more power to them.
Yeah.
This works for me, but it's not the answer for everyone. So
Yeah.
children are finding their own avenues, and I think that's very healthy and to be
Yeah.
encouraged. Yeah.
And honestly, it doesn't take a whole bunch to allow them to explore that. We definitely have youth who come to the center. They're in one day and they're this person, gender pronouns, still they, them, whatever they want for that day, but the gender expression is,
Sure.
could be male or female or somewhere in between. And it really is, it's refreshing. I found it, what if I, instead of getting nervous about like what to to just like kind of like sink into like, okay, so what's the energy today, like, so
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
begin to find it refreshing as opposed to just like, oh, I have to get it right, and I might make a mistake, and I'm just like, all right, let me feel that energy, and what can I vibe with, because if you show up as she, I'm gonna vibe with that. We're girls, like, and there's a certain thing we have, right? If you show up as he, you're still loved and recognized and respected, but it might be different.
Sure.
And so that's been refreshing, and continues to hold my curiosity, which for me means that I'm continuing to make space and learn and grow, and hopefully be a support. The I guess final question. Yes, we're all basically people. Gene Hansen said in the chat. Is around relationships. Someone wanted to know about relationships around, in terms of your former wife, your family. How are you doing with that? Is that
Well, yeah, my ex-wife, and I are very good friends. We see each other, maybe 4 or 5 times a year. We go out to dinner or lunch or uh, whatever, and we've always been friends, and we remain friends to this day, which is a great blessing for me.
Mhm.
I have my brother and I were estranged. I have a brother 5 years older. We were estranged for a long, long time, and not necessarily about trans, just brothers or something was going on. And but again, that has changed, and he's been very accepting. When I actually did the play in Provincetown
Mm,
during a trans week there,
mm.
and he flew in from California to see it,
Oh, very good.
and so that was great. So we have a good relation. I'm very fortunate. I know people who are just the opposite, who have very difficult, who have been
Mhm.
sort of rejected by their families. I
Mhm.
know I have one friend who said whose father said, we wish you had been a in prison for murder rather
Mm.
than being transgender.
Yeah, that's
And you know, it's so hard, but
mhm.
fortunately, uh, trans people are able to find their own families, create their own families,
Yes.
and as a lot of people have to do,
Mhm.
and move on from there. But I've
Yeah,
been fortunate from that standpoint. I only had one brother, and so we have a small family, but
yeah.
it's gone well for me.
Good. And, like, I really think it is important to, not necessarily downplay the challenges that people who are trans, deal with. in our society and around the world. But certainly we want to also lift up, opportunities where we can say, this is a person who is trans and this is their story. This was your story today, on the My Story series. And so that, those of us who have questions, those of us who need to connect and are curious, and those of us who, are, potentially questioning ourselves or are trans can see, also you and your light and what's possible with support, even having the support and some of the challenges that one will go through, but to do it on this day, to do it on International Trans Day of Visibility, so that people can be lifted after this conversation and getting to know you and knowing about your art and your work and your activism just because you are. And so thank you for that.
Thank you. It's been a delight to be with you.
Absolutely.
I have such respect for the work you do, and you're tremendous, and
Yeah, thank you.
the
Yeah.
leader you are in the community. So you're one of my idols. So thank you
Right
so
on.
much.
We are sisters. Right on. Let's get it. That's what I don't know what that really means, except for let's keep living and being our full selves. Why not do it? Right on. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you to the audience. Thank you to the Maltz Museum. This has been awesome. I think I should stop talking now, and Emma is going to close us out.
Thank you, Phyllis. So thank you so much, first of all, to Christine and to Phyllis for such an engaging, thought-provoking, eye-opening, I feel, conversation. I know I feel like I learned a lot just from hearing the two of you talk, and I hope everybody else in the audience did as well today. And I would also like to thank our virtual audience for joining us today from home for this program. We were so glad to have you with us. If you enjoyed the program today, I'd love to invite you to join us again next month for the next installment in the My Story series, where Holocaust survivors Erica Gold and Helen Marks will be sharing their stories as interviewed by Sarah Weiss, the CEO of the Holocaust and Humanities Center in Cincinnati. You can find more information on this program and any others by visiting www.maltzmuseum.org. And thank you again, Christine and Phyllis. Everybody, thank you for joining us and have a wonderful evening. Please take care.
Bye.
Great rest of the evening. Bye-bye.